Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is Friday, January 24th. Championship games are here. We have 3 more games left on this NFL schedule. 2 good games to talk about in this one. We have some new blood in the NFC Championship anyways with the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. And then we get that old rivalry, tale as old as time. Bills versus Chiefs, Josh Allen versus Pat Mahomes. Maybe it's different this time. I don't know. I have my doubts, but we will talk about all of that when we do end up talking about it. But obviously, I will start the show with the NFL Weekly Update. We have lots of coaching news to talk about. We had the first real domino fall in the head coaching searches. We have some coordinator hires, some new GM hires, on top of like a little bit of draft stuff to talk about, mainly just Senior Bowl stuff. I'm going to hype up the Senior Bowl because it is a really cool event. But that will be the episode, NFL Weekly Update, talk about all of these coaching, GM, rumors, whatever, little bit more stuff there too, and then we will talk about these games, preview these championship games coming up. So yeah, I guess let's just get into the episode, and let's start off with the NFL Weekly Update. Obviously, the biggest news of the week, Ben Johnson is officially the Bears' new head coach. Everyone's number one choice, seemingly, this offseason, and Ben Johnson got to pick exactly where he wanted to go. And when there was rumors of Eberflus getting fired around this time last year, Ben Johnson, again, he didn't put his name out there. He's like, no, I'm staying. I want to finish what I did. But apparently, if that job were available last year, Ben Johnson wanted to work with the Bears, and I think a large part of that is because he wants to work with Caleb Williams, and he sees the potential and the greatness that Caleb flashed this year. Was it consistent? Absolutely not, but he did flash some really great, cool things that he does on the football field. And that's a big reason why Ben Johnson wants to go here. Is he a little crazy for staying in the division, in the hardest division probably in the league right now, with the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings, and then the Bears? Like, it's a tough division, but he seemingly has the quarterback. He's got some guys on offense that he likes. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, Caleb, like they were all at his introductory press conference. DJ Moore actually came back early from a family vacation, so that's great if you're DJ Moore or if you're just a fan of the Bears in general, because DJ Moore was checked out for most of last year, and the fact that he is leaving a family vacation during his holidays to be like, I want to go meet my head coach, that's good, because DJ Moore is an incredible player. Absolute home run hire for the Bears, though. Bears who have been, I don't know, they seem to just do the same things time after time after time, and they brought out the piggy bank to basically, here, Ben Johnson, take as much money as you want, and the rumored contract for Ben Johnson is $15 million per year, which puts him in the top 5 coaching ranks. I think that, maybe not top 5, but either way, that's like the higher end money. I think it wedges him in between Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, which, seeing both of those guys' pedigrees, it's a little nuts, but obviously people think that Ben Johnson is the next great coach, and I think he said all the right stuff in his press conferences too, where he's not going to try to replicate what they did in Detroit, because he doesn't have those same guys. He doesn't have an Amon-Ra. He doesn't have a Jameson or a Sam Laporta or that offensive line or a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs. He's going to use, obviously, there might be some similar scheme things, but he's going to put guys in the best position to win. And that's always something I love to hear from a head coach, because instead of like, no, it's my system, we're going to fit whatever I do, it's, no, I can see the talents on my team, and I'm going to adjust what I do to what they do best, because they're the ones executing all the plays on the field. Yeah, I think it's a great hire for the Bears. It's a great job. People, again, I think that the roster is obviously, when you look at those other three teams in the NFC North, it's not there yet, but at least you got pieces. Again, I was talking, okay, you got Caleb Williams, you got Rome Odunze, you got DJ Moore. Darnell Wright looks like the only solid offensive lineman they really have. And on defense, it's also loaded with a bunch of guys. I'm interested to see who he brings in as his coordinators. Dennis Allen was rumored as a potential defensive coordinator hire back when... where was Ben Johnson before? Ben Johnson was in Miami before, which obviously sucks for me. But I think because Dan Campbell has the Dennis Allen connection when they were both working with the Saints. And Dennis Allen, bad head coach. So no one wants Dennis Allen as their head coach. So if Dennis Allen can take over this Bears defense, do a really good job, you don't have to worry about losing your defensive coordinator. And obviously, he's been a head coach. He's been a coach for a very long time, so he gives Ben Johnson someone who we can kind of lean on for some of these head coaching, some of the head coaching stuff anyways. Honestly, the only person that I would be worried about on the Bears is a running back, DeAndre Swift. If you are not aware, Ben Johnson was the big reason of why DeAndre Swift left the Lions. They didn't want him on the team anymore because Ben Johnson was like, I don't know what this guy does well. Goes to the Eagles, had a pretty decent year, but again, when you run behind the best offensive line in football, makes it a little bit easier. And then we see what DeAndre Swift does in Chicago. I don't think Swift will be there at the start of the season, but I digress. I really like the hire for Chicago. Obviously, we'll see how it pans out, but if you're Caleb Williams, you should be ecstatic, and he was. Other hire up here, Aaron Glenn to the Jets. I think this is another great hire, and obviously they can't all be great hires, but I do really like Aaron Glenn as a coach. Now, people point to his defenses, where I think this year he had the 20th ranked defense, and last year was the 24th ranked defense, and it's like, why is this defensive coach getting hired when his own units underperformed? Well, I can say that the 2023 unit just straight up wasn't a good unit because other than Aiden Hutchinson, the personnel just wasn't very good, was very young anyways. And then this year, you saw the flashes of how great, how good that the defense could have been. And again, when you lose your entire starting unit and backup unit for the most part, it's going to suffer. So I think that the fact that that Aaron Glenn had these guys ranked as the 20th ranked unit by the end of the year is honestly like a pat on the back for him. He did a great job for having poor NFL talent at best on his defensive unit, but Aaron Glenn is more of like a culture builder anyways. I think he is more in line with the Dan Campbell rah-rah, like I am taking over this organization and we are going to build it from the ground up the right way. And that's something that the Jets have failed to do for basically this entire century. I mean, basically forever, is just not have a proper culture. And I mean, you can argue that Rex Ryan and what he brought to that team, like probably like, yeah, a little bit of a culture builder, but I give Aaron Glenn more of like that culture builder, rah-rah guy than just like a pure defensive coach. I think obviously he'll have his hands on the defense, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's not the one calling the plays on the defense. But he goes to a job. They have a lot of good young talent on it, especially on that defense. Big market, all eyes will be on him. But those are where the two Lions coordinators went. And before I move on to like the next hirings or string of hirings anyways, the way Lions fans are reacting towards both of their coordinators leaving is unbelievable. Like especially towards Ben Johnson, where they are pissed that Ben Johnson left for a division rival and blah, blah, blah. Ben Johnson was the first coordinator that got hired to another team, like as a promotion, since JFK was president. That's a long ass time ago. And Lions just have not had to deal with coordinators leaving for other prominent jobs for, when was JFK president? The 60s? So yeah, 60 something years. They haven't had a coordinator poach, and they're clearly really bitter. I see a lot of people blaming Ben Johnson for that playoff game and the reason why they lost. Ben Johnson didn't throw 3 interceptions, didn't make J-Mo throw into triple coverage on that trick play, didn't make Jared Goff fumble. I think like the Lions at the end of the day, they scored 31 points. They had 500 plus offensive yards. Like Ben Johnson did exactly what he was supposed to do in that game. Just the offense and Jared Goff particularly didn't execute the game plan. So putting that on Ben Johnson, I don't know. Lions fans are weird. They don't know what they're doing. This is very new territory for them, and they're acting. You can see that they don't know what they're doing because this is a first for them. But either way, just weird stuff from Lions fans online anyways. We got one firing here. The Jags have fired GM Trent Baalke about 2 weeks too late. So obviously the Jags should have fired Baalke basically as soon as the season was done. Basically, or when they fired Doug Peterson as well. Shad Khan decided to hold on. He was twiddling his thing. I was like, no, Trent Baalke's pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And then Ben Johnson turned them down. But he went to the Bears, so it's like, okay, well, maybe he just liked the Bears a little bit better. And then Bucs offensive coordinator Liam Cohen turned them down to just go back to the Bucs, to just be their offensive coordinator for one more year. He's like, no, I don't want to work with Trent Baalke. And that was both of those guys' issues. They don't want to work with Trent Baalke. And hey, maybe if Baalke wasn't there and Ben Johnson, it's like, okay, it's an easier division. It's in Florida, no state income tax, nicer weather. Maybe he still believes Trevor Lawrence is in that generational, that really good prospect is still in there somewhere. They got some pieces on offense that they, like, again, that job was just as compelling as the Bears job, in my opinion, but Trent Baalke was the one holding it back. So it makes sense why he was fired, but why do you wait 2 extra weeks, Shad Khan? It's just everyone knew. And I hear all the time where it's like, oh, I mean, we can all talk as fans about how easy it would be to own a team or how easy it would be to manage a team, but we don't know the ins and outs and everything and how truly hard it is. Enough of that. Everyone knew that Trent Baalke should have been fired the day the season was done. And even then, everyone knew Trent Baalke shouldn't have been hired in the first place. Trent Baalke should have been fired basically as soon as he went to Shad and Tony Khan to be like, hey, I think I want to bring in Urban Meyer to be this team's like head coach. He should have been fired on the spot right there for not even hiring Urban Meyer, but to just think of hiring Urban Meyer is so stupid. It's just, again, Jags fans are obviously happy he's gone, but now the Jags are 2 weeks behind everyone else in this head coaching search, like really. And now they have to find a new GM, and they're already behind the 8 ball on that one too. Couple new GM hires too. The Titans get Mike Borgonzi, who was the assistant GM for the Chiefs, worked with Brett Veach for a long time. Again, I have no idea what assistant GMs do. I mean, I obviously have a general feel about like what they do, but like I can look at offense coordinators and defensive coordinators and be like, okay, their units were respectively good. I don't know what Mike Borgonzi brought to the Chiefs front office, whether it was cap stuff, whether it was his eye for talent and free agency or the draft. I don't know. But everyone seems to think that the Titans picked a really good guy and whatever. I have no thoughts on this. Good job, Mike Borgonzi. You're now an NFL GM. The other new GM hire, the Raiders hired John Spytek over from the Bucks. Again, like a lot of what I saw that, oh, he's a wizard with the cap, and sure, we'll see, I guess. Raiders go, I mean, they're a very barren team right now anyways, outside of like a handful of players, but the things are wide open on what John Spytek, I don't know. Again, we will figure out these names as we actually learn about these people and what they actually do. Yeah, he obviously has his Brady connection. He would have been part of that front office that brought Tom Brady to Tampa. So obviously Brady has a little bit of trust in him there. I think it's funny, Brady going after some new spy tech. It's like we're talking about the Spygate all over again. Yeah, we can move on because, again, not a lot to talk about with the GM hires. Next hiring here, Josh McDaniels becomes the Patriots offensive coordinator. So this was rumored for a couple weeks now, and I said I'd wait to give my thoughts on it, and I think I've summed it up to one word. Uninspiring. It truly is uninspiring. The Patriots are trying to relive the glory days, and I don't blame you. When you've had that great of like a 2-decade stretch, yeah, I'd want to go back to that, but bringing in Mike Vrabel was already kind of doing that, but at least Vrabel had success elsewhere. McDaniels is, again, with Tom Brady as his quarterback, great offensive coordinator. With anyone else, he's fine. It's unimaginative. Like, I'm happy that Josh McDaniels is back in the division because I just don't see. I don't know. Tom Brady's not walking through that door. The QB that makes his system go isn't there anymore. And that's not a shot at Drake May. I think Drake May is going to be a great quarterback, but Josh McDaniels just doesn't seem like the type of coach to ever adapt to what's around him instead of being like, no, this is how we're doing things. We're doing things my way, instead of being like, maybe Drake May is just a little bit of a different quarterback than Tom Brady. Again, obviously, but I don't know. It's, again, it's very uninspiring. I think it's a fine hire. I think that there was other things that they could have done, but I think Josh McDaniels is just one of those coaches who is stuck in his ways. He has proven that time and time again. When he first left the Patriots, went to the Broncos, flamed out there, went back to the Patriots, won a couple more Super Bowls, went to the Raiders, didn't change anything again, gets fired, and now he's back with the Patriots again. So at least you know, if Mike Vrabel, no one's going to go after Josh McDaniels if your offense does become a success again. But again, uninspiring. It's just it's a whatever hire. I'm not like, I think with the way that the game is going and just the running concepts and having athletic mobile quarterbacks, that's just not what Josh McDaniels does. It will just be a very run-heavy attack. I don't see the passing concepts being very complicated. I don't know. Again, we will see. Maybe I give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to change things, but I have a decade plus of he doesn't change anything, so not a great hire. The Patriots also hired Terrell Williams to be their defensive coordinator. Terrell was the Lions defensive line coach, and then before that, he worked with Mike Vrabel and the Titans as their defensive line coach. Dan Campbell called him one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL. Kind of take that with a grain of salt, because I think that Dan Campbell would call any of his guys the best at what they do in the NFL. So, but obviously, he has that connection with Vrabel. He obviously, again, knows how he is when he was coaching with him back in Tennessee. Now he has a few more years under his belt still doing that, so he's making that jump up. We'll see how it looks. Sounds like a good hire. Again, I don't really know. A couple more defense coordinator hirings here. The Colts hire Lou Anarumo to be their new defensive coordinator. The old Bengals DC lands with the Colts, and he'll have a better group of players to work with than he did with the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals do have their talented guys, but I think that this Colts defensive roster is just more talented in general, and I think that that's what Lou missed out on last year, and I think he was just kind of a scapegoat more than anything. Obviously, that defense was horrific, but it wasn't talented. Outside of Trey Hendrickson, they didn't have the guys. They didn't have the guys that Lou wanted to make that defense work, and again, injuries and stuff like that happens, but I think this is like a relatively good hire. It's a safe hire anyways. I think Lou will get the best out of this group, so I'm interested to see how that goes. And then, two more defensive coordinator hirings. Jeff Ulbrich goes to the Falcons, so the Jets interim head coach and defensive coordinator. He now winds up as the Falcons DC. this is one I don't really get. I mean, Jeff Ulbrich, you could tell that defense was Robert Saleh's defense. And when Saleh gets fired, that defense all of a sudden just wasn't performing at all. They went from a top 5 unit in the league to a bottom half unit in the league. Obviously, injuries happen, whatever, but that was not a great defense. And the fact that he's getting a defensive coordinator job immediately again, a little weird. Ulbrich, who does not like to blitz and likes to get his front four home like often. And it's again, when you're on the Jets, when fully healthy, you could do that with Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams in the middle. The Falcons got no one. So I really don't know. I'm not a fan of the hire in general. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, Raheem Morris is a defensive guy himself. I don't know. Not a huge fan. And then the final defense coordinator hiring here is Al Golden becomes the Bengals defensive coordinator. This is so Al Golden is the the former Notre Dame defensive coordinator now. So did very well at Notre Dame over these last couple years. He was with the Bengals staff at one point before going to Notre Dame. I think he was their defensive line or maybe defensive back. Either way, he was with the Bengals before, went to Notre Dame, did a really good job. Now he's back with the Bengals as their defense coordinator. So we'll see how that jump from college to NFL goes. Obviously, he was already with this team and in the NFL beforehand, but not a lot of thoughts on it. But again, it's news to talk about. Next note up here, a little bit of rumors, because obviously with the Cowboys firing Mike McCarthy, they are also behind the 8 ball on trying to figure out who is going to coach this team. And a few names have been thrown out there. Brian Schottenheimer, who is their current offensive coordinator. So, yeah, it would basically be fire Mike McCarthy or let McCarthy walk to just hire Schottenheimer, who was also part of the reason why the offense wasn't great. I guess, I don't know. It would just be hiring internally because no one wants that job because Jerry is a cheap fuck. There was Kellen Moore, who they fired because Mike McCarthy wanted offensive play caller duties. So they fired Kellen Moore, who is now the Eagles OC, who's also not doing that great of a job there. But he was supposed to be coach in waiting after Mike McCarthy. But, yeah, bring back Kellen Moore, I guess. And then I saw one more name right before I started recording, and it is Rich Bisaccia. You know, the Raiders interim head coach, special teams coach, who did a great job, and they rattled off those wins to finish the season to make the playoffs. Sure, yeah. Uninspiring hires, each and every single one of them. But it just shows, again, no one wants to work with Jerry Jones. No one wants to work at a place where you feel underpaid for what you do, and Jerry just doesn't want to pay top money for head coaches anymore, which, again, when you have the most expensive franchise in the NFL, I don't know why money is an issue to him so much, but yeah, I don't know. The Cowboys are just going to be the Cowboys. If Brian Schottenheimer ends up being the head coach, it's basically like firing Mike McCarthy in week 1 and then just making Schottenheimer the interim. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Schottenheimer gets hired and then he immediately gets fired this time next year. Again, Cowboys are a dumpster fire. This isn't new news, really, but yeah, I no idea what the Cowboys are doing. We can move on to a couple more notes here. Mark Andrews. So Bills fans have been donating to the Type 1 diabetes charity that Mark Andrews is affiliated with, and have donated over $100,000 to that charity. That's great. Like, obviously, like, shout out to Bills fans for doing that, but this is something that Bills fans do very consistently, where a player on an opposing team, and sometimes it's nice. Sometimes, like, oh, that player is going through a hard time, and it's like, okay, Bills fans, yeah, we'll donate to that guy. Like, we show the love, whatever. But a lot of the times, it's when Bills fans, like, or not Bills fans, but when the Bills are playing that team, a player gets injured or that player does something embarrassing to help the Bills win. And obviously, Mark Andrews falls in that latter category of dropping the 2-point conversion to send the Bills to the AFC Championship game. So, I don't know. It's one of the funniest bits that Bills fans do is donating to charity, which isn't a bit, and it is a very nice gesture, but like if you're Mark Andrews and you're already so pissed off at yourself and it's like I can't believe I cost my team the game, and all of a sudden Bills fans are donating a bunch of money to a charity you're affiliated to be like thank you for being a fuck up. It's great. It's honestly like that's some of like the best fan behavior I've seen. Like I love that. I think it's really, really funny and obviously incredibly kind gesture. But it's still very funny donating hundreds of thousands of dollars. I guess I should say tens of thousands of dollars to a guy who fucked up so bad your team's now with the AFC Championship. So shout out to Bills fans. Very funny. Next note up here is so the NFL announced their award nominees today. MVP, defense player, yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on. But they released the nominees for comeback player of the year. And the players included on that list are guys like Joe Burrow, guys like J.K. Dobbins. I'm trying to think of the other guy that was also listed who I'm forgetting about. Either way. So we got guys like Dobbins and Burrow who were hurt last year, missed time, whatever. And like they specified at the start of the year that this award is only for people coming back from injury, illness, or like extenuating circumstances, which doesn't really make things clear. But made it clear is that this isn't like, oh, you were bad last year, now you're good, you win the award, because they wanted to, again, with the Damar Hamlin, Joe Flacco, they wanted to avoid that. But for some reason, they still decided to nominate Sam Darnold, who was just a journeyman backup who just had a terrific career year, sure, or Damar Hamlin, who, lost the award last year, who when he should have won it, but now are we just nominating Damar Hamlin again so these award voters can, like, redo their fuck up, essentially? Either way, there just needs to be like a breakout or a most improved player in the NFL type thing award instead of comeback player of the year. And comeback player of the year is, I like the award. I like having it being for guys who are coming back from injury or illness or yada, yada, yada. But giving it to Sam Darnold or Damar Hamlin after he had a great year, but 1 year, one full season removed like from his like heart condition thing, whatever. It's weird. Again, the NFL's own words was, this is for people coming back from illness, injury, whatever. Sam Darnold doesn't deserve it. He might win it. I don't know. It should go to J.K. Dobbins, the guy who tore his knee and Achilles basically for 3 straight years and had a very productive year at the Chargers. It should go to him. And I don't know who the other nominee is because I forget, but we will keep going here. Last note up here is the Senior Bowl. So the Senior Bowl is an event held in Mobile, Alabama. It's like a 1-week event with a game played on the Saturday or Sunday, I forget, where it's basically NFL prospects, seniors usually, but now they've opened it up to just players who have graduated and I think some junior players who have declared. But basically, it's the first big draft event of the season. There's a Shrine Bowl as well, but the Shrine Bowl doesn't get nearly enough TV coverage, so I'm focusing on the Senior Bowl. There is not a game being played next week, and if you're an NFL fan, the Senior Bowl is where your eyes should be locked to. In terms of just prospects that will be there, I was going through like their entire list of guys that are going to be there, and I recognized 40-something names on that list, which I think to me in a typical year, it's 20, probably less than 20. So the fact that I can sit here and be like, there are 40 guys worth watching at the Senior Bowl, and there will be risers who I don't know about either. But there are so many good NFL draft prospects there. We have Josh Connerly out of Oregon, Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. We have Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. A few other guys. Either way, it's a very, very Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. Again, it's a long list of players just for, but this is all, what am I trying to say here? But it is worth watching the game on Saturday. If you just follow kind of the tweets, and someone will have an article about like recapping the Senior Bowl, I'm sure a lot of people will. It gets you in tune with the NFL draft just a little bit more. So that'll be an interesting thing to focus on for next week anyways. And someone who has emerged and just got announced he will be participating in the Senior Bowl is Laurier quarterback Tyler Elgersma. I probably said that wrong, but 6'4", strong arm, mobile. He completed almost 74% of his passes this season in the CIS season, 4,000 yards. Again, like the numbers look good, and I went to go watch like some clips and some highlights, and the talent looks good. And I love the fact that there's a guy from like CIS Canadian football who's going to the Senior Bowl to put his name out there for NFL scouts, and I hope he does great. And if he does, I might just start the campaign of Curtis Rourke, QB1, Tyler Elgersma, QB2. Fuck the rest of the guys. Those Canadians are the best QBs in the draft. But again, excited for the Senior Bowl, and we can get into the championship game previews. Starting off with the NFC game in the afternoon. Commanders, Eagles. Eagles -6, total set of 47.5. The third time these teams are playing each other this season. The Eagles handily win the first one. The Commanders come back and win the second one. If you listen to Wednesday's show and you know that I've been doubting the Commanders all year, and I even said it. I got ready for Friday's show because I will continue to doubt the Commanders. Because, hey, maybe I'm their good luck charm, where as long as I don't believe in them, they will continue to do well. I don't know. It all feels like it's coming to a head. But it's basically, if the Commanders can stop Saquon Barkley, they have a chance. Will they be able to stop Saquon Barkley? I sincerely doubt it. His rushing prop for this week is under 130.5 yards. Like, that's a crazy number for that to be the over-under, like, line. I don't know. Again, stop Saquon Barkley. You might have a chance, but you have to let Jalen Hurts throw the football. That's the reason why you won that second game. And obviously, Jalen Hurts got his concussion in that game. He left. He's come back. He hasn't looked the same since, but they stopped running the ball. And when they needed to pass the ball, and obviously Kenny Pickett was the one passing, it just didn't work out. Jalen Hurts isn't that good of a passer either. So, you see, obviously he's way better than Kenny Pickett. I'm not saying he's close to Kenny Pickett, but it's not good, especially right now. But the Commanders are, again, it'll be tough. It'll be very tough for this Commanders defense to stop the Eagles' run game if they want to pass the ball. Lattimore and Mike Sanisterl will have their hands full with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. But I don't know. I'm buying into what the Commanders are doing slightly anyways. Again, it's about stopping Saquon Barkley, and if you can stop Saquon Barkley, you have a chance. For the Commanders' offense versus that Eagles' defense, it becomes a little iffy. Obviously, the Commanders are losing their best offensive lineman, Sam Cosmi, for this game, which is very unfortunate. And what's even more unfortunate is the Eagles have a guy named Jalen Carter who is an absolute freak at defensive tackle, who he should be taking advantage of that backup guard who is in that game. So that'll be tough, but Jaden Daniels just seems, I don't know, he seems immune. He seems immune to being stressed and getting pressured. He's always cool, calm, level-headed. And who's to say that they can't do it? Again, it would be very, very tough. I'm actually going to I'm actually going to try to find an update on Quinyon Mitchell here, because that is also a big potential injury concern. Quinyon Mitchell, questionable with the shoulder. He was limited Wednesday in practice, so it looks like he's going to line up to play. Again, I don't know how I can say that the Commanders can win this game. Obviously, Commanders have the better coaching, in my opinion. They have the better quarterback, in my opinion, where those are two of the big, key, crucial things. But I think just, again, this Eagles roster on paper is the best in the NFL. And it's tough to beat talent. It just simply is. But, I don't know. Commanders, their only real takeaways is you got to stop Saquon Barkley and you got to score a lot of points anyways. You have to make it so the Eagles are throwing the ball on second and third downs instead of converting first downs on runs on second and third. So it's stopping Saquon Barkley. It's still scoring a lot of points against his defense. The deck is stacked against the Commanders right now, and I don't have a lot of faith in them. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win in this one, but the Eagles are coached by idiots outside of Vic Fangio, so you never know. One thing that gives me a little hope with stopping Saquon Barkley is the Commanders got three guys on that interior. They got Jonathan Allen, they got Daron Payne, and they drafted Johnny Newton in the second this year. They got those three big body guys where if they commit to stopping the run, they put those three guys out there. They got Bobby Wagner, who just fucking run straight forward and headhunt Saquon Barkley maybe. Like, again, there's a chance. I'm very interested to see what Dan Quinn's game plan is, but you got to get the Eagles throwing the football. Apparently, the sweet spot for Jalen Hurts passing yards is around like 135 passing yards in a game. When Jalen Hurts throws below that number, he has not lost in the playoffs. When he throws above that number, I think he's like 1-3. So, yeah. Make Jalen Hurts throw the football, you have a better chance of winning. I think that's all I have to say about that matchup, so we can go on to the premier matchup, the real Super Bowl matchup. Obviously not, but the Bills at the Chiefs. So I'm not there yet. Chiefs -2, total also set at 47.5. This is tough. It truly is a tough game to try and predict. Obviously, they did play each other during the season, and the Bills won that matchup, and the Bills won that matchup rather easily, I'd add. So I don't know. It's just it's so different in the playoffs, and Josh Allen against the Chiefs, he's better in the playoffs versus the Chiefs individually than he is in the regular season. If you just want to look at these numbers, in the regular season against the Chiefs, he is 4-1. The offense scores 25.8 points per game, 296.2 offensive yards per game, 13 total TDs, and 4 turnovers. In the playoffs, he has not beaten the Chiefs. While his team scores 28 points per game, he averages 342.3 offensive yards and has 9 total TDs with only 1 turnover. Like, Josh Allen is the guy who should be able to beat the Chiefs, and every time he comes up to the challenge, it's just the Chiefs and their black magic and their voodoo just get it done. I want the Bills to win this so badly. Obviously, the Chiefs story of though the first team to ever get a three-peat and blah blah blah. Like, it would be like nice, I guess. I don't really care. I think the only reason why I kind of want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl is because I've been saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl again all year. But also because then there can be a real conversation had between Mahomes and Brady all time. Kind of, sort of, obviously, Mahomes still has to continue this success for the next decade, but Tom Brady went a decade between his Super Bowl wins. If Pat Mahomes has 4 in his first 8 years, but technically only 7 years as a starter, the door is open. Again, I think it would be tough for me to ever put Mahomes above Brady. Like, he's got to get to it 5 or 6. Does Mahomes have to get to 5 or 6 Super Bowls for me to consider him with Brady? I think maybe only 5. The individual success for Mahomes also kind of has to get back to where it was. He's had a couple relatively down years from what we saw Mahomes do at the start of his career. But I don't know. This is a very tough game to call, and I think what it will come down to is this Bills offensive line going to be dominating like the way they have in the first 2 games? They pushed around the Broncos defensive line. They pushed around the Ravens defensive line. And honestly, the Chiefs defensive line compared to those 2 defensive lines is worse. Obviously, the Chiefs have a guy named Chris Jones, who's a future Hall of Famer, who is much harder to deal with than anyone on the Broncos or Ravens fronts. But overall, it's worse. Like, they got Chris Jones, and they got some guys I like on that Chiefs defensive line too, but if the Bills can, like, again, run the ball like they've been doing, and Josh Allen unleashes that arm a little bit more, it's going to be tough against the Spags defenses, but I don't know. And then just on the other side too, you have a Bills defense that is just kind of average, and that's been what loses them games in the playoffs consistently. It's not the Bills and their offense and Josh Allen. It's this defense who just can't stop anyone. And they did a great job of limiting or getting the Ravens to turn the ball over. But that's something that the Chiefs, they don't turn the ball over. They limit their mistakes. They make you make the first mistake. And what the Chiefs do, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable football, but you have to play damn near perfect football every single rep to beat the Chiefs at this point. And do I think the Bills are capable? I think that they're capable. Do I think that they'll get it done? I don't. It's so tough to say. I will be cheering for the Bills this weekend, but I don't know. It's tough to sell the Bills finally beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead to go to the Super Bowl. I'd love to see it. It's going to be so tough. It really is. It's a true coin flip game to me. I obviously think that the Eagles are going to win easily, but this game, I honestly couldn't tell you. Yeah. No, I don't really have a strong lean. I would like for the Bills to win. Just historically, the Chiefs should win because that's just what they do every single time. But I don't know. Are there any other matchups that I can talk about in this one? Not really. Like, obviously, we have the Chiefs' weapons, so to speak. Like, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano make sure that Travis Kelce isn't wide open in the middle of the field and look out for where Xavier Worthy is. The Chiefs' run game hasn't been great anyways, but I don't know. It's a very, very even matchup. It's very hard for me to pick, and I don't really have to pick, but I feel like Khalil Shakir is going to get locked down by McDuffie a lot of the game. the Bills got to actually hear. This is because I've just kind of been rambling and not really saying anything for probably quite a while at this point. But the Bills got to do something with Amari Cooper. Like, Amari Cooper, he was a really good player last year. Like, literally just last year, that run that he went on with Flacco to end, like, the final 7-8 games of the year, like, he was one of the best receivers in the league, and now he's just not a part of the Bills' offense. I find that very, very hard to believe. I don't know if there's an injury that we just don't know about, but someone like Amari Cooper should help unlock this offense. And I don't know what's up with him or where he is, but he should be used. I don't know why he hasn't been getting used, and I feel like if someone like Trent McDuffie is going to be on their number one target in Khalil Shakir, if you get Cooper and Keon Coleman on the outside and Kincaid, and I don't know, Cooper should be used. Amari Cooper, my X Factor player, I guess. I'm gonna end it here though. That's the episode. No strong lean in that Bills Chiefs game. Maybe I'll get a stronger lean once we get to it, but that's the episode here. Do I have any final notes that I really want to say? Probably not. Not really. Yeah, that'll do it. Another episode down. We're almost back to 1 episode a week now. How many more episodes do I got? I got 1 more week of, no, 2 more weeks of 2 episodes a week, then I will be back to the 1 episode a week. Next week is obviously going to be a little bit different, scheduling-wise. I think I'm going to do my first, my top 25 draft prospect ranking. And then I'll do the awards on Friday, like the NFL will also be doing. But that's it. That'll do it. If you have liked this, as always, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell all your friends, all that fun stuff. And until next time, peace.